Welcome to Book Summary Podcast, your gateway to personal transformation. Each episode delivers big ideas from the world's most impactful books on mindset, productivity, and success, all in just a few minutes. Ready to turn knowledge into action? Let's get started.
Welcome back. We've really reached a fascinating point in this whole journey, I think.
Definitely a pivotal moment.
For months now, if you've been following along, you've been deep in the trenches, right? Doing the hard work step by step.
Steps 1 through 7, that's a lot of tracking, a lot of honesty with yourself about time and money.
Exactly. It's not just, making a budget spreadsheet. It's fundamentally changing how you see your money, how you value your time.
And that leads to this core idea, doesn't it? That money isn't just dollars and cents. It's your life energy.
Yeah, the energy you trade your precious time for. We focused on maximizing that incoming energy in Step 7 better jobs, side hustles, whatever it took.
And before that, Step 6 was all about fiercely guarding that energy, cutting out the waste, finding that creative frugality.
So after all that effort maximizing income, minimizing outflow, you end up with something really important.
A gap, a persistent growing gap between what you earn and what you spend.
And that gap isn't just extra fun money for next month. That's a crucial distinction we need to make today.
Absolutely. It's not about just having enough in the sense of covering bills plus a bit more. It's about creating this deliberate, quantifiable margin.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. The mission here is to figure out how that margin, those savings, turn into something, well, almost magical.
The magic of compound interest, right? Taking that stored life energy and transforming it into a stream of income that keeps flowing even when you're not working.
Passive income, the key to financial independence, or FI.
And that's the core of Step 8, capital and the crossover point.
Okay, capital and the crossover point. Let's unpack that.
Well, think of the first 7 steps as building your defenses, strengthening your financial house. Step 8 is where you go on offense.
Offense. How so?
It's a mindset shift, that gap we talked about. Before you might have seen it as, oh, great, extra money for a vacation or maybe a nice safety net.
Which isn't bad, but...
But now you need to see it differently, strategically. You view that surplus purely as capital.
Capital. Okay, so define capital in this specific context. It sounds kind of big and corporate.
It is big, but it's personal.
Right.
Here, capital is simply the money that has one job: to generate more money, to eventually replace the need for you to trade your time for a paycheck.
It's the engine.
It's the engine of your freedom.
Yeah.
Exactly. The resource that gets you off the treadmill.
So assuming we've diligently done steps 1 through 7, we're tracking, we're earning more, spending less.
Yeah.
What's the ultimate destination here? The big picture.
Financial independence, FEII. And yet, on the surface, that means you don't have to work for money anymore.
Which sounds pretty good.
It sounds great, but it goes deeper. It's liberation. It frees you from that cultural treadmill that says happiness comes from buying more stuff. You start to redefine what more even means.
So it's a psychological shift too.
A fundamental one. You stop being reactive, just responding to economic ups and downs, maybe feeling like a victim of the system. Instead, you become proactive. You make conscious choices about how you spend your time, your life energy, pursuing what actually matters to you.
Shifting from victim to conscious choice. Okay, let's dig into capital itself. Where does this capital actually come from? Is it just the leftover money?
It is the leftover money, but it's leftover by design, through diligence. It's the sum total you've accumulated by consistently applying those earlier steps.
Tracking every dollar.
Evaluating every purchase against your real values.
Maximizing income streams.
And, crucially, cutting out spending that doesn't bring you real joy or fulfillment. That visible gap on your charts, that is your capital growing.
The source material uses some great examples here. They really show it works regardless of your starting point. Let's talk about Nina Ann.
Nina's story is fantastic. She started out living really close to the edge, very low income for years.
So not someone you typically think of as building capital quickly.
Right. But she committed fully to the steps. She became incredibly efficient, almost ruthless in cutting waste. Her monthly expenses settled around like $950 a month. Super frugal.
Wow, okay.
But here's the key insight from her story. She didn't just cut expenses. She then turned her focus squarely onto earning. She had her professional job, but she also took on extra piecework, diligently.
So attacking it from both sides?
Exactly. Her income line, as the book says, went off the chart compared to her stable low expenses. That created a massive gap.
And that massive gap became her capital. She wasn't just cutting coupons, she was engineering a huge surplus.
Precisely. And her discipline was key. She saved that difference. She didn't let lifestyle inflation creep in. Then you have Elaine H., who started from the complete opposite end.
High earner, right? But maybe spending just as much.
Yeah, a classic case of lifestyle inflation. Programmer, made good money, but spent heavily on things that, when she really looked at them, weren't adding much value to her life.
So how did the program help her build capital?
She approached it logically, like a programming problem, tracked everything, saw where the money was going, habits, social pressures, not real joy.
The evaluation step was key for her then.
Absolutely. By comparing the life energy cost to the actual fulfillment, she made some big changes. She managed to cut her spending in half.
In half? That's huge. That must have felt like deprivation.
Surprisingly, no. That's what's so interesting. The sources emphasized she didn't feel deprived because she cut the waste, the stuff that wasn't making her happy anyway. In fact, she reported feeling better, more in control. Her quality of life and even her self-esteem went up because she was making conscious choices aligned with her values.
And that freed up money.
Instantly became capital, ready to be put to work.
So whether you start like Nina, focusing on income, or like Elaine, tackling spending, the result is the same. You accumulate this stored life energy.
And that accumulation is the launching pad for true wealth building.
Yeah.
You shift from the old model working for money to the FI model, getting your money to work for you.
Which means investing it.
Right. Putting that capital into things that generate returns, interest from banks or bonds, dividends from stocks, and then, this is crucial, reinvesting those returns.
That's the compounding effect.
That's the engine. That reinvestment makes the growth exponential over time. It's what eventually makes punching a clock truly optional.
Okay, let's get practical. Step 8 isn't just philosophy, it's about calculation.
Yeah.
How do we actually measure this progress towards FI? There's a formula, right?
Yes, a really important one. It translates your accumulated capital into a predictable monthly income stream. We call it calculating your monthly investment income, or MI.
Monthly investment income, MI. Got it. What's the formula?
It's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah.
You take your total capital, the money you've saved and earmarked for investing, not spending.
Okay.
You multiply that capital by a chosen interest rate, and we need to talk about which rate to choose.
Right, that sounds important.
And then you divide the result by 12 to get the monthly figure. So capital times interest rate divided by 12 equals your MI.
So capital X rate 12, MI. Simple enough.
The math is simple. The power comes from doing it consistently, month after month, and tracking it.
Which brings us to the wall chart. This seems like a really core tool in this program.
It absolutely is. It's more than just bookkeeping. It's the visual heart of the whole thing. You literally have a big chart on your wall.
And you plot lines on it.
3 key lines. Your total monthly income, your total monthly expenses, you've been tracking those already. And now you add a third line, your monthly investment income, the MI you just calculated.
Wow, so you can see them all together.
Exactly. And you watch that MI line start small, tiny maybe, but month by month, as your capital grows and you keep reinvesting, you see it climbing steadily, relentlessly, rising towards your expense line.
That sounds incredibly motivating. Makes the abstract goal feel real.
Yeah.
Tangible.
It makes it finite. You can see the progress. But let's go back to that interest rate in the formula. Choosing the right one is critical for making this projection realistic and, frankly, conservative.
Conservative. Why conservative?
Because we're projecting the income that needs to support you indefinitely. We're not speculating. We're planning for reliable, long-term passive income. So the program strongly advises against using, say, your checking account interest rate that's basically 0.
Okay, makes sense. What about average stock market returns? Like aiming for 8 or 10%.
Also not recommended for this specific calculation. That introduces too much volatility for projecting your baseline freedom income. Instead, you should use a rate reflecting stable, safer investments.
Like what?
Typically, the advice is to use the current yield on long-term U.S. Treasury bonds, maybe 30-year bonds, or perhaps high-quality certificates of deposit, CDs.
So government bonds or CDs, why those specifically?
Because their yields reflect the prevailing rates on stable debt. They give you a realistic, conservative estimate of what kind of reliable income you could generate from a portfolio designed for safety and stability, which is what you'll likely lean towards once you're living off the income.
It's about building a dependable floor, not shooting for the ceiling with this particular number.
Precisely. If you project using a conservative 4%, let's say, and your actual investments return 7%, fantastic. You just reach FI faster. But if you project using an optimistic 8% and your investments only return 4%, well, your plan falls apart. Conservatism here buys peace of mind.
Okay, let's make it concrete. Say someone's just starting step 8. They've managed to save $1,000 specifically as capital. And let's use a 4% rate for this example.
All right, so $1,000 capital times 4%, 0.04 is $40 per year.
Okay.
Divide that $40 by 12 months, and you get $3.33 per month.
$3.33.
Okay.
That feels tiny compared to a monthly salary.
It does. It looks like almost nothing on the chart at first, maybe a rounding error. But that $3.33 is profound.
Why profound? What does it really represent?
It represents $40 a year in income you didn't have to trade your time for. That $40 is generated passively by your past savings working for you, potentially for the life of that investment, say a 30-year bond.
$40 might cover, I don't know, your internet bill for a month maybe? Or basic groceries.
Exactly. It's $40 worth of your life energy that you just bought back permanently. It's the very first step off the earning treadmill. It proves the concept works.
And what's really powerful is flipping this formula around, right?
Yeah.
Using it to figure out the finish line.
Yes. This is where you calculate how much capital you actually need to reach FI. It makes the goal concrete.
This is often talked about as the 4% rule or the 25x expenses rule, isn't it?
That's the common shorthand, yeah. The idea is based on what's called a safe withdrawal rate, or SWR. If you figure out your average annual spending, let's say you've optimized it down to $3,000 a month, so $36,000 a year.
Okay, $36,000 a year needed.
Then you apply a safe percentage you can withdraw from your capital each year without running out of money. Historically, 4% has been the benchmark.
So you need enough capital so that 4% of it equals your $36,000 annual spending.
Exactly. So you'd calculate $36,000 divided by 4%, or 0.04.
Let's see. $36,000 divided by 0.04. That's $900,000.
$900,000. That's your target FI number in this example. That's the amount of capital needed to generate your required income, assuming that 4% SWR holds true.
But we should probably add a note of caution about that 4% rule, right? It's not magic.
Absolutely critical point. The 4% rule comes from the Trinity study back in the late 90s. It looked at historical market returns and found that withdrawing 4%, adjusted for inflation, usually allowed a portfolio to last 30 years.
Usually. And for 30 years. Key caveats there.
Big caveats. First, if you retire early, say at 40, you might need your money to last 50 or 60 years, not just 30. That increases the risk.
And second,
sequence of returns risk. This is huge. It means when your returns happen, matters a lot. If the market tanks right after you retire and you're pulling out 4% of a suddenly smaller pot, you're selling low and could deplete your capital much faster, even if markets recover later.
Ouch. So a bad start can really derail things.
It can. That's why many people in the FIRE movement today use a more conservative rate, maybe 3.5% or even 3%, especially for early retirement or in uncertain economic times. It builds in a bigger safety margin.
Good context. But sticking with the 4% for calculation simplicity, hitting that $900K target means your $3K monthly expenses are covered.
Right. And the wall chart makes this visual. You see your MI line, calculated each month, creeping up towards that $3,000 expense line. It makes the $900K goal feel less abstract. You're watching the crossover approach.
That visual must be incredibly powerful for keeping motivation high over the years it takes.
It turns a potentially decades-long journey into a measurable, finite race where you can see the finish line getting closer every single month. And that finish line, that moment of convergence on the chart, that is the crossover point.
Okay, let's define it clearly one more time. This is the peak of the mountain, right?
It's the summit. The crossover point is the specific moment when your calculated monthly investment income, that passive stream from your capital, becomes equal to or greater than your total monthly expenses.
The MI line crosses over the expense line on the wall chart.
Bingo. When the blue line, or whatever color you use for MI, goes above the red line for expenses, you've done it.
And what does that mean practically for someone listening right now, maybe stuck in a job they don't love, working long hours?
It means work becomes optional. Paid employment, the traditional job, is no longer a requirement for your survival or your chosen standard of living.
You are financially independent.
In the truest sense, you have enough income flowing passively from your capital to cover your needs without needing to sell any more hours of your life.
That sounds freeing. But the sources suggest the psychological impact starts even before you hit the exact point.
Oh, absolutely. The approach to the crossover point can be transformative. Look at the story of Larry D. in the book. He worked in HR for a huge company.
Right. What happened with him?
As his MI line got closer and closer to his expense line on his chart, he knew FI was just around the corner. It wasn't theoretical anymore.
And that changed how he felt about work.
Completely. The background anxiety, the fear of layoffs, the need to constantly please difficult bosses, it just evaporated. He described feeling bulletproof.
Bulletproof, wow. Did that affect his performance?
Amazingly, yes. He became better at his job in those final months. He was handling some really tough corporate negotiations.
Because the personal stakes were lower for him.
Exactly. His survival didn't depend on winning the negotiation anymore. So he could approach it with incredible clarity, energy, confidence. He apparently prevailed big time, benefiting himself and the company right before he chose to leave on his own terms.
The freedom wasn't just after FI, it started during the approach.
The psychological freedom came first. Then there's Sam, the garbage collector. Very different situation.
Stable job, but maybe not fulfilling.
Right. He liked the stability, but the thought of doing that same physical work for decades felt crushing. The program gave him something powerful.
What was that?
A finish line. Once he calculated his crossover point, he saw a specific, finite end date to needing that job. It wasn't just someday maybe. It was, I need X dollars, which means Y years at my savings rate.
That must have changed everything for him.
It opened up his whole perspective. He saw the finite period of time he needed to keep working.
And he didn't just quit and sit on a beach, did he?
No, that's the beauty of it. He quit the moment his calculated MI matched his paycheck from the garbage route, and he dedicated himself full-time to his real passion.
Which was?
Developing a sustainable homestead, working on regenerating small-town life in rural Kansas. He wanted to prove you could build a meaningful life outside the urban rat race, funded by FI.
Using FI as a tool for a purpose-driven life. That's inspiring.
But it's not always pure excitement. We have to acknowledge the crossover point jitters. Rosemary, the first story, highlights this.
Right, she felt terrified as the date got closer, even though the numbers worked.
Exactly. Intellectually, she knew her passive income was enough, but emotionally, letting go of that regular paycheck, that structure she'd known her whole life, it was scary.
I can understand that. It's a huge leap into the unknown, even if you built the safety net yourself.
She had these irrational fears. Her skills atrophy. Could she ever get a job again if she needed to? It's the fear of losing the familiar structure.
That trapeze artist analogy she uses is perfect.
Isn't it? Maybe this is what trapeze artists feel when they are assessing when to let go of their bar. You have to trust the net your capital is there. The source of your security shifts from external employer to internal your plant and capital.
And we should also mention that FI looks different today than it did when this program was first conceived. The FIRE movement has broadened the definition.
For sure. It's much more flexible now. For many, it's not about permanent retirement at all.
What do they use it for then?
Things like sequential sabbaticals. Work hard, save aggressively, hit a smaller FI number, then take a year or two off to travel, learn something new, pursue a project, and then maybe go back to work, recharged.
So FI becomes a repeatable escape hatch, a base layer of security.
Exactly. Or people use FI to cover their basic needs, and then they take on part-time work or side hustles purely for enjoyment or purpose, not because they need the money.
Like Dorothy in the book, who reached FI but kept working part-time because she genuinely enjoyed the work and the interaction.
Right. The key is choice. FI gives you the power to choose how you engage with work or if you engage at all.
So reaching the crossover point gives you that choice.
Yeah.
But the program stresses that true long-term security isn't just about that investment capital line crossing the expense line. There's more to the foundation.
Yes, it's about building resilience. The program outlines 3 distinct financial pillars needed for robust security.
Okay, what are the 3 pillars?
They are capital, cushion, and cash. Capital is pillar 1. That's the main engine we've been discussing, the investments generating your passive income.
Got it. Pillar 2 is the cushion. This sounds like the emergency fund most people talk about.
It is, essentially, but its role here is specific. The cushion needs to be highly liquid, easy to access immediately, and completely safe from market risk.
Like cash in a savings account.
Exactly. A high-yield savings account is ideal. The standard advice is 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses, and critically, make sure it's FDIC insured.
Why the emphasis on liquid and safe, completely separate from the main capital?
Because life happens. The cushion is for true, unexpected emergencies. A sudden illness requiring travel, a major home repair, helping a family member. You absolutely do not want to be forced to sell your income-producing capital assets, especially during a market downturn, just to cover a short-term crisis.
The cushion protects the capital. It's the immediate shock absorber.
Perfectly put. It handles the bumps in the road so your main engine can keep running smoothly.
Okay. Capital and cushion. What's the third pillar? The cash. That sounds intriguing.
The cash, pronounced cash, is savings beyond your core capital and your emergency cushion. Think of it like pioneers burying supplies along a trail to retrieve later.
Extra provisions?
Exactly. It's a store of money earmarked for predictable but non-monthly large future expenses. Things you know will eventually need replacing.
What's the primary benefit of having this separate cash?
Initially, it's almost entirely psychological. It's there to silence the what-if monster, especially for people feeling those crossover point jitters.
The worry-wart voice.
Yeah, that voice asking, but what if the roof leaks? The car dies? I need major dental work all in the same year. The cash is the answer.
How so?
Its mere existence proves you have more than enough. It provides tangible evidence against those worst-case scenario fears. It says, yes, I've planned for those big, lumpy expenses too. It makes the leap of faith into FI feel much safer.
So you know the money is there for the known unknowns. You know you'll eventually need a new car or a new furnace or whatever.
Right. The cash is where you accumulate funds for those things without touching your capital or draining your cushion. It allows you to maintain your FI lifestyle smoothly over the long term, replacing major items as needed without financial stress.
Capital for income, cushion for emergencies, cash for planned large replacements. A very robust structure.
It creates layers of security. But the program goes even further, suggesting true security isn't just about money.
Right. This is where the focus broadens beyond just FI, financial independence, to something more like financial interdependence.
Exactly. It introduces the idea of natural currency, built on 3 non-financial pillars, the ABCs.
ABCs.
Abilities, belonging, and community. Abilities are your skills, your knowledge, what you can do for yourself and others. Belonging is your social capital, friends, family, support networks. Community is the wider network, neighbors, local resources, shared infrastructure.
And the insight is, the stronger these ABCs are, the less actual money you might need.
Precisely. If you have skills, abilities to fix things, grow food, help others, if you have strong relationships, belonging for mutual support, and if you actively engage with your local resources, community like libraries, tool sharing, local groups, you need less cash to access a rich and fulfilling life.
It connects back to the idea of creative frugality becoming a byproduct of empowerment.
Yes. When you can DIY things, share resources, barter skills, you save money naturally, but it doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feels like competence and connection. True wealth is being skillful, connected, and part of a thriving community, not just having a big bank account. So once you've got those financial pillars, capital, cushion, cash firmly in place, and you're cultivating those non-financial ABCs, you're really ready for the final conceptual piece of the puzzle.
Which is step 9, investing for FI.
Right. And it's crucial to frame the goal here correctly. We're not suddenly shifting back to a more is better mindset.
We already figured out how much is enough way back in earlier steps.
Exactly. Step 9 isn't about learning to make a killing in the market or chasing risky high returns. It's about assurance. It's about becoming knowledgeable enough to manage your hard-won capital wisely.
Managing it so it generates that reliable long-term income you need to stay financially independent.
Precisely. Protecting your principal and ensuring the income stream is sufficient and sustainable. It's about stewardship of your freedom, not speculation.
And the main ways to generate that passive income are still the classics.
Primarily, yes. We're looking at income from interest, like from bonds, dividends from owning stocks, rent from real estate, and sometimes royalties if you have intellectual property or other resource rights.
But the way people typically invest for FI today looks pretty different from how the pioneers of this movement did it, right? Especially someone like Joe Dominguez, who the original book talks about.
Oh, vastly different. Joe had a huge advantage. He reached FI during a period, the 60s, 70s, 80s, when interest rates on super safe investments, like U.S. Treasury bonds, were incredibly high.
Like how high?
We're talking rates consistently between, say, 6.5% and sometimes up to 15%, due to inflation and the monetary policy of that era.
Wow. So he could put his capital in ultra-safe government bonds and get a huge return.
Exactly. He needed relatively little capital, maybe around $75,000 in his time, to generate enough income for his frugal lifestyle because the yields were so high and so secure. Safety and high income went hand in hand.
That sounds like the dream scenario. Is that possible today?
Not really, unfortunately. With interest rates generally much lower in recent decades, relying solely on bond interest to fund FI would require a much larger capital base. Maybe several times what Joe needed.
Okay, so if high-yield safe bonds aren't the primary religion anymore, what is the dominant strategy in the modern FIRE movement?
Overwhelmingly, it's shifted towards equities, specifically through low-cost index funds.
Index funds, we hear a lot about those. Why are they so popular for FI?
A few key reasons. They're passively managed. They just aim to track a broad market index, like the S&P 500 or a total market index. This means management fees are incredibly low compared to actively managed funds where a manager is trying, and often failing, to beat the market.
Lower fees mean more of the return stays in your pocket.
Exactly. Plus, they provide instant diversification. You're buying a tiny piece of hundreds or even thousands of companies. This spreads out your risk compared to picking individual stocks.
It aligns with what Warren Buffett often advises, right? That most people should just stick with index funds.
It does. Buffett's point is that it's very hard, even for professionals, to consistently beat the market average, especially after fees. By simply matching the market with a low-cost index fund, the average investor can often outperform the majority of active managers over the long term.
So it's a pragmatic, low-effort, diversified way to capture market growth over time.
Pretty much. It's become the bedrock of many FI portfolios, aiming for long-term growth that hopefully outpaces inflation.
But index funds still carry market risk, unlike Joe's treasury bonds. How do people balance that?
Diversification is key. Most FI portfolios using index funds will still hold some bonds or other fixed income assets for stability and to dampen volatility. And another major asset class often comes into play: real estate.
Ah, rental properties.
Yes, real estate remains a powerful way to generate relatively stable cash flow. Not necessarily flipping houses, but holding rental properties for income.
What's a common strategy there for FI folks?
A popular approach, especially for those starting out, is something called house hacking. Advisors like Scott Trench talk about this a lot.
House hacking.
Yeah, you buy a small multi-unit property like a duplex or a quad, often using a low down payment owner-occupant loan. You live in one unit yourself.
And rent out the others.
Exactly. The rent from the tenants helps cover or even exceeds your mortgage payment. You're essentially living for free or cheap while building equity in an appreciating asset and potentially generating extra cash flow.
That sounds like leveraging debt smartly to acquire an income-producing asset.
That's the idea. So step 9 is really about understanding these different tools, index funds, bonds, real estate, and learning how to combine them into a resilient, diversified portfolio that can sustain your financial independence for the long haul.
So, wrapping up our look at step 8, the core task is clear. Calculate that monthly investment income, get it on your wall chart, watch it climb towards your expenses. That defines your crossover point, the target date, when work becomes truly optional.
You've put in the immense effort on spending, on earning. Now you're building that 3-pillared fortress: capital generating income, cushion handling emergencies, cash ready for those big future costs. It's a huge accomplishment to reach FI. But remember that long-term deep security isn't just the money. It's also built on financial interdependence.
Right. Those ABCs. Your abilities, your sense of belonging, your connections within your community. These are the resources that make life rich beyond the bank balance.
The goal wasn't just to stop working. It was to free up your life energy for things that truly matter.
To design a life filled with purpose and engagement, the FI just makes it possible.
The capital, managed wisely through step 9 principles, should ideally take care of the money side.
Which leads us to our final thought for you today, a question to ponder as you move towards or past your crossover point.
You've mathematically secured your financial future. You know the date, or maybe you're already there.
So the question is, what specific abilities are you developing right now? What community connections are you actively strengthening today? How are you ensuring that when paid employment becomes optional, your life is already so full of meaningful projects, relationships, and activities that the financial freedom simply fuels the rich life you've already started building?
Thanks for tuning in to the Book Summary Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe for more summaries, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Want deeper insights, exclusive book notes, and reading tips? Join our free newsletter. The link's in the description. And don't forget, if you'd like to read the full book, our affiliate link is right below. It helps support the channel and keeps the summaries coming. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing.